Hello, and welcome to the MMA Mic Drop podcast. My name is Jade Bunky, and I'm joined by the one and only MMA Milo, who is not only an emerging MMA analyst, but also one of the nation's top up-and-coming youth surfers. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the White House card. There have been a lot of recent announcements, including a new fight that's been added. This fight card is an objectively good fight card, but there are some issues. And there's some issues that are fixable. We're going to talk about everything. We're going to talk about Josh Hokit versus Derek Lewis. We're going to talk about the Crypto.com sponsorship. We're going to talk about the layout, and we're going to talk about every single fight on the card. We'll provide early picks, so let's get started. So Milo, when I'm looking at this fight card, the first thing that stands out is that there's not a lot of close fights. And I think that's a problem because I think the most important thing for the UFC to do is to create competitive matchups with divisional relevance. You know, we have the main event, Ilia Topuria versus Justin Gaethje. I think Topuria is like a minus 650 favorite or something crazy. And granted, it's something the UFC had to do. That given that Gaethje is holds the interim belt, but if you do that, I think every other fight on the entire card should be competitively close. What are your thoughts? Do you like all the fights? I mean, would you rather see some more competitive matchups, or tell me what are your thoughts?
I like most of the fights, but the Sean O'Malley versus Amian Zahabi fight, I think it's kind of a mismatch because Amian is old, and I think Song Yudong was a harder fight, and he beat him, so I think he should be fighting better competition.
Yeah, so who would you rather
Um,
see Sean O'Malley
I
matched
would
up
rather see
against
him
on this
against like
card?
Corey Sandhagen or like maybe Umar. I think those would be two good matchups.
Yeah, and you know what? And I agree with you. I mean, and I think this is one of the biggest critiques on the fight card, right? You know, Sean O'Malley, he's a former champ. He's fighting a 39-year-old. And if you just make that one tweak, if you have him against Corey Sandhagen, who is, ranked, right behind him, or Umar, who's ranked right above him, and it's, that would be a USA versus Russia matchup, which would be kind of cool. And I think it would be much more competitive and much more compelling as a fight as well. So you have the better, more interesting storyline, the more competitive fight. And I completely agree with you. It's interesting because, this fight card has Ilia Topuria and Alex Pereira on the same fight card, which is absolutely insane, but it's the lack of competitiveness. What do you think of the Mauricio Rufy versus
Oh,
Michael
I
Chandler
think it's a
fight?
pretty interesting fight just because like Michael Chandler has like a more of a
Hmm.
wrestling based style and Rufy like doesn't really deal well with that. But I think it's a really close fight, and I don't really know who I would have in that. Yeah,
Interesting.
even though Michael Chandler's old, like
So that's
he's still got like really good wrestling.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I said Eamon Zahabi's 39. I think it's Michael Chandler who's 39. I think Zahabi is 38. And see, I disagree with you on that because I think if this was 3 years ago, yeah, maybe. I think at 39, I don't think the wrestling's going to matter. I think Mauricio Rufy is going to knock him out in the first round. And so and he's like a minus. Let me check. He is. I mean, he's such a crazy favorite. He's a minus 625. So what I see is here's a
Yeah.
non-competitive fight. But you see it as competitive. That's interesting. He does have better wrestling, but how will that play out? So that's interesting. You like that one. That's one of the fights I would actually change right away. That's the fight I actually. It's that one and the Sean O'Malley one are the ones with which I have the biggest problem. But then there's the new ones. Josh Hokit versus Derek Lewis. Josh Hokit, I mean, he just had that remarkable fight. He has this cringe persona, which is completely lame. And, if he just relied on his fighting, he would be a megastar. I think because what he did against Curtis Blades, he's now become a superstar. I mean, that was so remarkable and so spectacular. I mean, the volume he threw against a much bigger guy. What are your thoughts on this fight, and should it be on the White House card?
Yeah, I think it should. I think it'll be a really entertaining fight. But yeah, and Derek Lewis is from the U.S., so it's good to have people.
Well,
Actually,
they're
you're right.
both
They're
from
both
the
from the
U.S.
U.S. That's right. All right, wait. It's because he talks so weird. It's like I don't even know. Yeah.
He's so cringe. I know. Yeah, Josh Hokit. I mean, see, so you like this fight, and I'm not. I don't have a problem with this matchup. My thing is, if you're the UFC, do you want to do this to your brand? And I know Trump asked for this. He wanted Derek Lewis. I don't know if he wanted Josh Hokit as well. I mean, he was sitting right there watching that fight. But the thing is, you have somebody who is so cringe, who's going to say some pretty crazy things, right? And not that the UFC should police what people say, but they can put the right people on the cards with the most exposure that will represent their brand in the most effective way possible. And so if you're new to the sport, or if you haven't watched the sport for a long time, and you tune in, and in one of the early fights, you have Josh Hokit saying cringeworthy things, is that, that can turn off a lot of people to the entire sport, to the UFC. It's kind of a clown show. Now the guy can fight, right? That's the thing. I wouldn't put him near this White House card. Although I'm pretty intrigued by that fight. And what do you think is going to happen in that fight?
I think Derek Lewis is gonna get pieced up, just because I don't know. He's pretty slow, and yeah, I think he's gonna get pieced up and probably first round knockout.
Yeah, I mean, it's that volume. And you saw, against Curtis Blades, I mean, Josh Hokit would hit him like
Yeah.
7 or 8 times in the face before Blades could even react. He's so fast. He's so relentless. And yeah, and Lewis did not look good against who
Whoever's
was
up
it?
last. Yeah.
Waldo. Yeah,
He gave
Acosta
up.
Cortez. I'd
He
actually
said
rather
he
see,
gave up,
what's that?
kinda. He collapsed to the floor.
Yeah, I'd rather see Hokit versus
Yeah.
Cortez, and I would have given Derek Lewis a more competitively appropriate matchup. Although Derek Lewis is still ranked, I think he's number 8, at heavyweight. And then we're going to break down, we're going to provide our initial quick picks in a moment. But there's a couple of things. What did you think did you see the new UFC layout, the
No.
new design? Oh, you should look it up real quickly. It looks pretty sick. A lot of, they are limited in how many fights they can add. I would still add one more fight. I mean, you'd probably get rid of maybe one of these fights, maybe Bo Nickel, Kyle Dawkins, but Bo Nickel is close to the president. You can't really do that. Just to get some more competitive fights. So here's what we're also going to do. We're going to try to name any fighters that we would like to see on this card if we could add one more. A lot of people mention that it's due to security reasons why you can only have a handful of fights. I don't think that's the case because there's events at the White House all the time. I don't think that's the issue. I think the issue is it's going to be outdoors.
I'm like confused on the new
I think.
UFC layout thing. Like, I
Why are
don't.
you confused?
What do you mean by that?
Oh, I'm sorry. In terms of how the setup's going to look on the UFC at the UFC White
Oh,
House, like the stands.
wait, isn't it
Yeah,
gonna be like? Where's it gonna be at?
I think it's just on. Is it
Yeah,
on
it's
the
like
South
super.
Lawn?
I think it looks really sick, and it's sick that it's like outdoors. I think it'll be like insane to watch, like once in a lifetime.
Yeah, and I think the fighters are gonna, walk out from the White House, which is pretty
Mm.
insane. So, it's still gonna be a pretty insane event. And then, what are your thoughts? So, Crypto.com is offering $1 million for the best finish or for a performance award.
Dude,
What are
that'll
your thoughts
probably
on
make it
that?
a lot more interesting because everybody's just trying to get do the best performance probably the entire time, not just get the win.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is also brilliant marketing. $1 million is
Yeah.
not that much for this level of exposure. I mean, you think about how much a Super Bowl ad is. You think about how much an ad campaign is. I mean, Crypto.com's marketing budget is $700 million, right? 1 million is nothing, and the amount of exposure it's getting, because it is 10 times more than what your typical performance bonus is, and it's one of those things where fighter pay has been a topic of contention, since since the sport was introduced, right? So, this is positive brand coverage. This is actually pretty incredible, brilliant move. Excited to see that. All right, let's go down real quickly. Let's do quick picks and predictions, and then we'll do a kicking it with Milo session right after this because he was just surfing with a bunch of big great white sharks, I think. All right. So you have Ilya Taporia, Justin Gaethje. I mean, Justin again. He's old, I mean, so you add another old fighter to the mix with Amin Zahabi, Michael Chandler. He's, and I'm looking at it that right now. He's a plus 470. Topuria is a minus 650. You kind of got to make this fight. I think I know where you're going, but
I
what do you
think
think is
it's
going to happen?
Ilya Taporia by first round knockout. Cause I think
That's what I
Justin's
think
like
too.
too aggressive and he comes forward and you can't do that against Ilya. It's like you just get knocked out.
And you know what? That's probably going to be his
Yeah,
only chance too, is just to catch something crazy because the speed difference is going
yeah.
to be crazy. Gaethje. I mean, I think 5 years ago this would have been an amazing fight, or maybe even just a few years ago. But I think Gaethje's just slowed down too much. Now, I think this is probably the most interesting fight on the card: Alex Pereira versus Cyril Gane, and it is interesting. Most people find this fight fascinating, and you look at the odds. It's pretty much a pick 'em. Pereira is always he's minus 105. Cyril Gane is minus 115. Gane is the slight favorite. What are your thoughts on that? What do you think is going to
I
happen?
think it's gonna be a really close fight just because Gon's so much bigger and he has really good stand up too. But I think Pereira could still catch him. I think like Pereira by third round knockout.
I'm kind of thinking similar to you as you are there, and that's what's tricky is Cyril Gane so light on his feet, but is he going to be light on his feet, or is he going to look light on his feet against somebody who's smaller, right? And there is that size advantage, and it's a significant size advantage. Remember, Alex Pereira is coming all the way up from middleweight, then to light heavyweight, and now heavyweight. Now, granted, he was a massive middleweight, and he was not small at all at light heavyweight, but that's a significant size advantage, and he's also a little bit older, right? So another fighter in his late 30s, but again, I don't mind this one. It's Alex Pereira. I think everybody's excited about that. I've been going back and forth on this. I think it's Alex Pereira's. I actually think it's going to be the same thing. I think it's going to be a late knockout. I think it's going to be fourth round TKO. Sean O'Malley versus Amin Zahabi. And let me just say this, we criticize this fight. Now, Amin Zahabi is like on a 7-fight win streak. He is ranked number 6. So in the rankings, it makes sense 3 versus 6. It's just from a competitive standpoint, this is not the fight to make. Sean O'Malley is a minus 395 favorite. What do you think
I
is
think
going
I'm
to
gonna
happen?
give Sean O'Malley by a second round knockout. Yeah.
Second round. Yeah, I think it might take him a little longer. I'm going like third round TKO. Now this one I think is the one we're going to disagree with, which we're going to disagree. Mauricio Rufy versus Michael Chandler. I mean, I don't even see this one. This fight should not be on this card, or it should. It has no business being made. But go ahead, tell me what
I'm
your
probably
thoughts
gonna
are.
go Mauricio Rufy by decision, but I think it'll actually be pretty competitive. Like, yeah,
Interesting. So you think Chandler's
yeah.
going to get him to
I
the
mean, like
ground a
you
lot?
saw against like Benoit Saint Denis, like he got mauled, and I think Michael Chandler is probably a better, I mean, like a better wrestler, even though he's older. He has better like wrestling pedigree.
See, yeah, and I mean, again, if Michael Chandler was younger, this would be an insane fight. I think
Yeah,
it's just the age, and given the age, I think Rufy's going to knock him out right in the first round. I think the speed is just going to be way too much. He's not going to be able to pick up on any of his reads. If he does, it'll be too late. I could see Rufy even putting him out with a jab. Before that, we're going to get Bo Nickel versus Kyle Dawkins, and again, this is another big line, minus 310. What do you see happening
I
here?
think Bo Nickel will just um by decision. I think he'll just wrestle him the entire fight, probably.
Yeah, I think same thing. I think he's going to dominate. Dawkins is pretty tricky on the ground. He has looked better since he's come back. I'm with you. I think Bo Nickel will finish him and give me second round submission. And I think again, this is where I think these guys are going to be going for it with the million
Yeah,
dollars on the
for
line.
sure.
Yeah, and then we already talked about Lewis versus Hokit. This is one of my favorite fights on the card: Diego Lopez versus Steve Garcia. And again, because it's competitive, that's what I want to see: competitive fights. Diego Lopez minus 185, Steve Garcia plus 154. Competitive fights with divisional relevance. Like I don't want to see two unranked guys fight, not on a card this big. What do you think is going to happen
I
here?
think Diego Lopes is probably has the speed advantage, and I think he's just gonna pick him apart for 3 rounds and probably by decision.
Yeah, and he's going to have a
Yeah,
grappling advantage too. Steve
yeah.
Garcia hits hard, um, so he can end it if he catches him cleanly. But I'm with you. I think this is going to be a decision in a really, really fun fight. Now, if you were to add anybody to this fight card, if you can add another fight or swap one out, what would you do? Who would you add? What fighter
I would
or what
probably
match?
just swap out Sean O'Malley for Corey Sandhagen, and I think that would make it pretty sick.
See, that's one quick fix. Another quick fix, I'd say number two is I would add, if possible, one more fight. I would actually, well, I guess you can't move the Derek Lewis fight because that's what Trump wanted, and
Yeah.
it's at the White House. But I'm wondering, I look at certain fighters, and I mean, what about Peyton Talbot versus
Yeah, that
Mario
would be
Batista?
insane.
Right? That's an insane fight. Competitive, high divisional relevance, and then you get to launch somebody into superstardom, right? Which I think if it's Peyton Talbot, that's good for the UFC brand.
What about like
I'm
Joaquin
with you on
Buckley versus Shafkat? That would be kind of a sick fight.
that. Would be sick too because then you have I like that a lot. You have again the U.S. versus former
Yeah.
Soviet, with Kazakhstan. And I think Shavkat might still be hurt though, but and I know Buckley's fighting Sean Brady. I think at in
Oh,
May.
really?
Yeah, so I think he's already booked, but I do like that matchup. But again, it's like can you get some U.S. fighters? And I'd rather see Mauricio Rufy versus somebody else. I don't even care if it's a UFC fighter, or I'm sorry, I don't even care if it's an American fighter. Just against somebody who's you know higher up in the rankings, that's going to provide a challenge to see how good is Mauricio Rufy. You know, or maybe like Joe Pfeiffer, right? That would be he's coming off a big win. Maybe him against like Robert Whitaker, like
Yeah.
something like that. That would be insane. Or even I mean, if you want to go crazy, I mean, against Imavov, right? Imavov isn't fighting for the title. Then you have U.S. versus France, and I mean, you're not going to get any bigger in terms of divisional
Yeah.
relevance than that. So that's kind of like how I would kind of frame this. It's like make a couple just super easy, quick fixes. And then number three, the third thing I would do to improve this card is just take Josh Hokit off of it because I think it's going to dilute the brand value. Although the fight itself, and this is where his antics, he would be so much better served. Like most people don't like his antics. He's cringe, but he's an incredible fighter. He would be such a bigger star if he didn't do that. Do you like his antics? Because we're in different demos. So do you like it? Do you think it's funny? Do you
Nah,
think
bro.
it's
I think he's
cringe?
just trying to like promote himself. So, like, I get it, but like, yeah, I can. It definitely comes across as cringe for sure.
See, and that's yeah, he's trying to promote himself, but the thing is, it's not clever, it's not funny, and it's not interesting. So he makes himself less interesting. And it's crazy because apparently he was in the ambulance when he was offered the fight on the way to the hospital and he accepted it. Like if that was the story, that's how you
Yeah.
build a brand. That's cool. That's tough as nails. This dude's high volume. This dude is, crazy. He's just going to come out at guys much bigger than him and throw so much volume that they can't do anything about it. That's the way to build the story. Okay, so what we're going to do now, we're going to do kicking it with Milo. Milo, you were just on a surf trip. Now, typically, you've been on surf trips, whether it's Hawaii, whether it's Portugal, to all these different places. You went up to Northern
Mm-hmm.
California, surfed in close proximity to great whites. Tell me about
It was
that.
pretty scary. Like, I had my hands and feet up in the air when I was like sitting out in the back waiting for waves. I didn't want to get munched by sharks, and all my friends were sticking together. But like, a few of my friends said they saw sharks for sure. So there's like five sharks in total, and that's like not.
How big? Because I mean, where you're
I
surfing, like,
think
go
one of
ahead.
the
How
kids said
big?
he saw like a 7 foot shark or something.
Oh, that's interesting. So 7 foot's not. I mean, if it's a white,
Yeah,
that's just a juvenile. Kind of, for those of you that don't know, we're down in Southern California, Newport Beach, and you got juvenile whites. Juvenile whites are up to about 8 feet. They're not going to attack anybody. They hunt for stingrays, so there's really nothing to worry about. But we don't have the big ones down here. Northern California is where you get the 16 the
yeah,
16 footers, and they're not looking
they
for
eat you.
stingrays. Yeah, exactly. So was the camping sketchy too? Because you're up in bear
Dude,
territory
yeah.
as well. Sounds like the worst idea for
We were
a surf trip.
Yeah,
camp with bears
it was
and
pretty.
then
It was
surf with
pretty
large
eerie.
great whites.
But, like we had to like make sure to put all our trash like inside the car, so like no bears can get it and come to us. Yeah,
Wow, that's pretty
and
responsible for
we
a
were
high
like
school
chumming up
for
one
a
of
high
our
school.
friends too. We
What
put some
happened?
hot dog on him so like the bears would get him at night.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
The weakest link. No pun intended. All right, that's all we have. Subscribe, comment, like,